We're gonna start off with a presentation here and start getting into all of the details for orientation. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're really excited to have you spend the next 2 hours with us learning about the dual training grant. I want to introduce myself to begin, and then my colleagues can take over. My name is Jacqueline Mull-Sletton. I am an assistant manager for our grants and workforce initiatives at the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. I have been working with the Minnesota Dual Training Grant since 2016, so I've been with the program for a while now, and we've recently been able to expand our team. I'm going to have my colleague Grace introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Grace Ferdinand. I am new to a dual training grant. I just began my role here as a state program administrator with the Office of Higher Ed at the beginning of May. I have a background in working with student financial aid programs for the last 13 years. And I'm just really excited to work with each one of you. And for some of you, we've had some communication. So nice to present for you today.
Thank you. And then the Minnesota Office of Higher Education collaborates our work with the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry on their pipeline program. And so I'll hand it over to their team to start us off. I believe Kathleen's with us. So Kathleen, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen Gordon, and I work for the Department of Labor and Industry. I head up our outreach for pipeline in the industries of childcare and healthcare. And I'll turn it over to Eric.
Thanks, Kathleen. I am one of the trifecta of consultants for our team. I outreach and will be contacting the manufacturing and agriculture industries. So thank you everybody for being here and congrats for participating. And I'll turn it over to Maddie.
Hi, everyone. I am the third consultant on the team supporting the industries of IT and transportation. And then our manager, Dan, is unfortunately unable to be here today, but he too has been part of the DLI team for about 6 or 7 years. So we're just really happy that you all kind of chose to participate this year. And I'll hand it back to Jacqueline.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, we're going to jump back. So our agenda, our time together, kicking it off kind of with those welcome introduction, congratulations. And then we are going to do a very, very brief dual training grant overview piece, just because we know that several different departments are joining on this meeting, training providers are joining on this meeting, a variety of individuals who may not know some of the basic pieces of dual training grant. And then we do have somebody from our OHE communications team who's going to talk about some media resources that are going to be available for you as a grantee as you are recruiting your dual trainees into programs. And then we're going to move into the various different documents, what we need to get prepared and ready over the next few months in order to get your contract set up so you can start your dual training program. We do have a training provider kind of to-do list that we want to touch base with you. So we make sure that your connection with your training providers is strong and you have those resources as well. We're going to talk very briefly about the general information on grant reimbursement, so you can start thinking about that and knowing what documentation to have on file. The same goes with the report. So we want to make sure you just know that these items are coming up. We won't dive into them in a lot of detail, but want to just give you that information. And then we'll wrap everything up with some additional resources that might help you strategize this year and in the coming years for your organization. During the orientation today, please feel free to use the chat at any time throughout the whole thing. Grace and I are going to be monitoring that chat, so we will stop and pause and answer any and all of those questions. For any of kind of the live type of questions, just hold on to those till the very end or the various sections that we have pausing, because we have so many people in this orientation today. We want to just have everything in that chat. And then we will have times where you could unmute yourself and ask those questions. Yeah, so congratulations. This is a really big year for Minnesota Dual Training Grant. This is the all-time maximum that we've ever awarded for the number of grantees. So we have 84 grantees that received awards that total beyond $5 million. So we're really excited to have all of you with us through this next year and developing your trainees in these programs. So a little bit breakdown about these awards that we were able to give. So we have 42 grantees in healthcare services, 26 in advanced manufacturing, and then 16 in agriculture, childcare, information technology, and transportation. And then as a reminder, our childcare and transportation, those are brand new industries. So this is the very first year that they are going to have dual training grants. 56% of our funds were awarded among the metropolitan area, and 44% of our funds were located in greater Minnesota. And so these grants go absolutely to the very north, to the southern, all parts of the state get touched with the dual training grant, which is pretty fantastic. We had 76% of our funds are being awarded to brand new dual trainees who've never been in the program before, and 24% of the funds are awarded to those dual trainees who are continuing their program. So they've either started this last year, or maybe there was a previous year that they started and they're coming back to finish up those degree programs. And then we had 60% of our funds awarded among what we consider our large employers, which would be those with 25 million in revenue the previous calendar year. And then 40% were awarded to our small employers who are below that threshold. So most of you probably know these few next dual training grant overview slides, but I just wanted to touch on them one last time because there might be some new departments that are joining during this orientation today. So with the dual training grant, the Minnesota legislature established the pipeline project over at the Department of Labor and Industry in 2014. That project has definitely grown and now is a fully sustainable program known as Minnesota Dual Training Pipeline. So Kathleen and Eric and Madeline, all three of them, their positions are housed over at the Department of Labor and Industry. And then a year later, in 2015, the legislature decided to create a grant to help those employers and organizations with the funding piece. And so they created the Minnesota Dual Training Grant, and they decided to house it over at the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. That is where myself and Grace are located. Both of our agencies have to work really collaboratively in order to provide you with the programming and the grant piece. So what makes this dual training and really having a dual training program are the two main components. So we need to make sure that we have related instruction, that formal piece where trainees are getting that theory and that foundation. And then we also need the second piece, which is on the job training, which their employer provides for them. The employer designs that on the job training to be simultaneously working with that related instruction. So both of those at the exact same time happening is what goes ahead and creates that robust programming for a dual training program. And then I am going to actually turn it over to our pipeline team. And so they can kind of give you a little bit idea of really what their role is. And then what are those pieces that you should be reaching out to them about? So pipeline team.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Eric Holden here back again. And I will say that our DLI team for dual training pipeline has the fun part of the dual training program, whereas Office of Higher Ed does a lot of the work for the grant. So as a lot of people are familiar with our team throughout the past year, whether you've met us at a community conversation or you've met us at a Pipeline 101 or an industry forum, what we do throughout the year, in the past last year, people that are ramping up to maybe potentially apply for a grant, is we hold industry forums. Tomorrow in St. Paul, we are having our all industry forum in person. That's our one and only in person. And that's just to bring everybody from across industry there's a couple subjects in it, but it's a discussion forum to find out. So we can go out and kind of be that bearer of information throughout different industries, because we know Minnesota is very diverse from north to south to east to west to the Twin Cities. We go out and get this information, and really we just prepare people, get to know people, find people that we can just find industry trends, things, maybe occupations that we haven't covered. Maybe we always ask, are there any new occupations within your organizations that we can potentially add? And then we discuss that, do some industry, kind of some numbers on workforce trends. And then we facilitate competency councils. That's where we get key industry partners together that really have the know-it-all of the occupations. You know, we're not subject matter experts of every occupations, but we go to the industries. And some people have participated in them, and it's great. We really appreciate that, because the field is really where the competency comes from. And then potentially throughout the year, anybody has questions as far as what a dual training pipeline program consulting group that we can help. We go out there and we show what it can look like within each organization. Each organization is different as far as their staffing. Each organization has, you know, training, or they don't have trainers, right? They have HR, and we just kind of show, yes, you can be a small company and really create a good dual training program. And we kind of help just consult with that, just showing different options. So that's what we do throughout the year. And so this is what we do. Now, after this meeting, and I know maybe I've already contacted a lot of the manufacturing and agriculture just to maybe come to our industry forum tomorrow. But throughout this year, whether you're kind of setting up for the school year next year for your new grantees, is that you can contact our team in our industries, and we would consult maybe how you're going to implement it. Sometimes people applied for the grant and they had a good plan, but they, you know, they kind of want to make sure that they just have some assistance, as, you know, maybe product development as far as what we can help with. And then we, if you want to be provided with providing feedback to our team about industry, and that's a big thing throughout the year. One of the reasons why we created our truck driver is because there was a lot of industries that were saying we need a commercial driver's license, a CDL license in an occupation. And we were like, okay, but what does that look like? So we provide that feedback up and into our team, and then that's where we can help across the industry. And then if you recognize an occupation and lead, like I always talked about with creating new occupations, that's what we do. And if you'd like to attend a professional development opportunity through our pipeline events, such as our all industry forum tomorrow, our community conversations we have in the fall every year, where we come out to, we're picking different locations, and we like to come out to the field and just invite any community member, an employer, just to come and just talk about the workforce in their area. And then when you want to build a community of knowledge and attend or even host a workforce community conversation. So that's where you could play a part in participating or creating a participation up in your area. And then after the orientation, the steps that you can take this summer. I like to take the summer. It's kind of a fun time to introduce myself to my industries, to traveling in person, just to kind of see organizations that I haven't been to see how they look like, how they're going to do it, and just to go out there. So that's what we'll do in the near future, if people haven't already, but just look forward to hearing from us later. And then the dual training pipeline badge, each dual training pipeline will be able to display this on the bottom of their emails, just as that they are a 2024 pipeline partner. And that's all I have. Next slide.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Eric. I appreciate it. So then the role for our at the Office of Higher Ed for the dual training grant. So really what our role is we create, release, and manage the entire request for application process, which you have just recently completed. And then we determine and announce those awards. We help you set up and manage your contracts. We process all the reimbursement requests. So whenever there is a question dealing with the money, dealing with the grant, please reach out to Grace and I. We provide various training and support that is focused around the grant administration. And we have to conduct monitoring reports and annual reports. We collect data and write all of those formal reports to the Minnesota legislature. So when you want to actually contact us, anytime that you have the questions about the grant documents, so anything to do with the portal system that we're going to show you later today, Whenever you need assistance with contacting a training provider, there's various instances in which we're able to kind of connect the two and talk through different items. If you'd ever benefit from getting connected with another grantee, please make sure you reach out to us. If you are thinking, we've never done this before, we'd really like to be kind of partnered with somebody who's already done it, get some of their feedback, we can help facilitate that relationship. Anything with the requirements and procedures about the grant, any of those little details, weird situations that might come up, reach out to us. We'll help walk you through those. And then again, the reimbursement piece, that all comes over to us, and then the reporting side. This is a breakdown of the funding over the years. So we began this dual training grant. The first grant round went out in 2016. And through that grant round, we paid just shy of $200,000 to 10 grantees and supported 87 dual trainees. And then you fast forward to 2024 with this grant award, and we will be, we awarded over $5.4 million. We'll be supporting 84 grantees and 985 dual trainees. And I did put a little note on this slide at the bottom that we are anticipating on releasing another request for proposal next spring. So in that March of 2025 timeframe, please make sure you are bookmarking our web pages and you are visiting it often if you'd like to be applying again. We're anticipating having about another $5 million available in grant awards for next year. Media resources. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. I believe Sarah should be on here from our communications team.
Yep, thank you so much, Jacqueline. All right, so my name is Sarah Burkhardt. I'm part of the communications team at the Office of Higher Education. And I am just going to briefly go over our media and recruitment toolkit that we offer. It just has some resources that you can use to just communicate about the grant, just some best practices and guidelines. So it is available on our website, and the password, it is passkey protected. So it is DTG 2024, and I will just share my screen so I can show you where to access that. All right, so just from our main page, we do have a link directly to dual training grant under our outreach. So you'll just go over to dual training grant, and then it is available in the side menu bar. So you'll just click on dual training grant media resources, and then just type in the passkey, and you'll have access to the page. So I'm just going to start with the Dual Training Grant Media and Recruitment Toolkit. This is a PDF that you can use to reference. If you need any information about definitions, abbreviations, some job postings. I'll just go over this. So this just kind of provides a brief overview, just what Jacqueline and Eric were just talking about, just how our state agencies work together. Just a really brief overview of that. And then just table of contents that you can use to reference. First part is about communicating about the dual training grant. So it just has a bit of information about name usage, logo usage, about media relations. If you are contacted by a member of the press, I do have my contact information listed here, but you can also contact Jacqueline or Grace. We are in frequent communication, just so we're notified about if the dual training grant is discussed just publicly in the press. Otherwise, we do have some things to avoid, like not renaming the dual training grant under an alternative name. It does have to be referenced as the dual training grant and can't be just republished as like a company's own scholarship or grant program. And then we just have a section here about definitions and abbreviations, just about dual trainee, just anything that you can use to copy and paste if you are producing your own kind of publication materials that you would like to advertise the dual training grant in. And then here we just have kind of basic outline about how dual training grant works, career competency models. We have links here that go straight to the DLI webpage, and we will update this by the end of June to include the additional industries as well as transportation, childcare, and the legal cannabis industry. And then here's just a section just briefly about how the grant funding works. If you want to explain it to your dual trainee or using any sort of newsletters or publication materials, it's just kind of a brief overview here. And then we go on to the recruitment section. So this is just kind of best practices and guidelines if you are creating like a job description, just kind of information about just producing a partnership with your training provider. And we do have flyers available with templates that you can use to just promote the opportunities at your company, which I'll go over in the second part of this. And then here's just kind of recruitment ideas, job posting. You're welcome to use any of this text, copy and paste, and just plug in any sort of credentials, just any information that is applicable to your company, just something easy that you guys can use to just kind of plug in information. Here we have some information about just ideas about how you can use that pipeline badge right here just on your website if you want to add it to your email signature. And then just this section talks just briefly about social media, what templates are available. And this last page just highlights our dual training success stories, which we produced last in fall 2022. And we are going to be highlighting some new success dual trainees for this next coming fall. So we are very interested in hearing from you, especially from our new industries. If you have a dual trainee that is finding a lot of personal success, if you find that the dual training grant is working very well for your company, please reach out to us, either Jacqueline or Grace or myself. We would love to highlight some new dual trainees this coming fall. So yeah. Then I will go over to what's available on this webpage. Here are just some downloadable OHE logos that you can use if you're producing your own flyers. Here are some social media templates that you can use, just easily downloadable. And then we do have some examples here that you can just reference, just where you can place your company logo. Here's just a different one that you can use just to promote the opportunity with the dual training grant. We do have these success story squares, and we'll be adding the new industries, but just so you can see what's available here. And then here are the flyer templates. You can click to view the example. So you can place your company logo, training provider logo, any kind of information. And these are just the downloadable versions without the added example. And then feel free to reach out directly to me if you need any assistance with any editing. I'm happy to help anybody that is a grantee, and yeah, just any assistance, any questions that you have promoting the program. Yeah, I'd be happy to help. So that is all I have for you today. Pass it over to Jacqueline.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate you showing everybody those pieces. And I really highly encourage everyone to at least get in there and read through that main manual. There's so much in there about how you should be presenting the dual training grant and talking about the different agencies and things like that. And so please do take a little bit of time to get in there and review those resources. All right, to the presentation. Fantastic. Okay, let's transition into our dual training grant documents. This is new this year. Everybody utilized the new portal system for the application process. With the portal system, we are building it as we are going. So we do ask for a bit of your patience as some things might need updates and feedback, and we'll keep you as informed as we possibly can throughout this entire year. And so at this point, though, we are going to start setting up your grant documents in the portal system. Everything should be ready to go for several of the modules. Some of them are still in development. So when you are, the first image on the left is the menu bar, and I'll show you this live in the portal, of course. But with that menu bar, anything that's on like that grant contract, or you probably can see like grant reports already, please don't touch those yet. They are still definitely under development. We don't want you to start, putting things in there and needing to change them later with more updates that are going to get pushed through. But today we will be able to show you kind of the basics of how to get your trainees themselves set up in the portal, and then for you to start working through your work plan and budget documents. So the first step prior to submitting a grant contract, and on these different slides, I put it in red on kind of the timing of when you should be doing these kinds of steps. So we have a training provider agreement, and the training provider agreement template that you are going to utilize is actually in the portal system. I was having some errors this morning, but we'll see if it's working this afternoon with it, but we will get it to you as soon as possible. But this training provider agreement, it needs to be completed by all grantees. All 84 grantees must do this, even if you have participated in a prior grant, even if you have had that specific training provider in a prior grant. Training agreements are per contract award per year. So we have to make sure that a new one is on file, even if nothing has changed. The training provider agreements, they are not meant to be a legal contract by any means. It is more of a document where the grantee and the training provider can acknowledge, yes, both of us as entities, we have met, we have discussed the dual training program, we understand the requirements of the dual training grant, we are excited and motivated to move forward and support these dual trainees to be successful. So it's really acknowledging these are the programs we have, we're partnering together on, and yes, we're going to be here to help these trainees be successful. If everybody should go ahead. Yeah.
Yep. I just wanted to say we have a question in the chat. They are currently in the portal and the provider template agreement link is not working. So I wanted to have you address that.
Sounds good. Yeah, so it wasn't working this morning either. It will be very soon. We will get that updated and pushed over to the production side where you can see that agreement template. But you will download it from the portal and you will be uploading it into the portal. So I'll show you where you will be able to find it once it is available. It may just take a couple extra business days for us to get it in there. At this point, you should know who your contacts are with your training providers. You should have already kind of been establishing that relationship through the application process. But if for some reason you really do not know who to contact at your training provider, we recommend that you start with like their business office in order to determine who your main contact is going to be there, who is the appropriate party to sign a training provider agreement. And then another document that we need to get going started prior to executing a grant contract is the work plan and budget. You will be doing all of this in the portal. I'll show you what that is going to look like because it has very similar items, details, or I should say data points in prior grant rounds. However, the feel, the look, and the process is definitely going to be different. So same kind of data points, but in a different type of process. And so we will go over that. Those work plans, it's going to be focused on each dual trainee separately. In the past, these work plan and budgets have kind of been like an overarching or overall type of plans. This is going to be you enter each trainee on their own. You provide their budget for them, provide what their related instruction coursework is going to be with the training provider, and then provide those details about their on-the-job training. So it's very specialized to each trainee. And then once we have that initial work plan and budget, and they are approved by the Office of Higher Ed, and we're moving forward with those next steps, please make sure you do consult with us before you make any substantial changes. A substantial change would be, changing a dual trainee, changing an entire budget, like really substantial changes. This document in the portal, it is a live document and it's a working document. So you're going to be in there changing and updating things, but we need to be mindful if there's something big that's going to be changing that we know about it, especially if something's already been paid. So if we have paid for a certain term for a certain trainee, please do not be adjusting or changing those kinds of fields without consulting with us and having our approval in writing before you do that. The work plan and budget, when we put the word initial in here, we know that in the portal system, we are still building as we go, right? So we understand also for you that it may just be an initial plan and things might get added to, might get changed. So we do recognize that, but we do need to have something moving forward in order for us to get to that next step of the contract. We do want to make sure that the work plan and budget remains up to date as much as possible. We don't want to encounter a situation where we've went all the way through fall term. It is January of 2025. You're submitting a reimbursement request and we go to your work plan and those trainees aren't even on there. The courses aren't on there at all. We want to avoid those situations. So before your trainee even sets foot into their dual training program, they should be on this work plan and budget. Their coursework needs to get put on there. Make sure it is up to date. And then we also wanted to make sure that you are well aware that the pipeline program does have some really awesome pipeline tools that are in spreadsheet format with various tabs where you could actually design it for each dual trainee. You can put in their related instruction coursework and kind of track their progress. You can put in their on-the-job training and track their progress. And that may be a really beneficial document for you to utilize on their, you just go to their website, you find your occupation and you have the spreadsheet. And you could even use those spreadsheets to upload them directly into the portal system. I'll show you where that could help you. You don't have to use them, but it's definitely an option. And then this is new this year, and it is not in the portal system. So this is going to be a step that we are tracking outside of the portal system, and we're maintaining it outside of the portal system. But grantees do need to have a budget and policies procedure type of document. It needs to talk about the budget items among the various categories for both the related instruction side and the trainee support side. And you will email it directly to myself and Grace, this budget and policies document. It is going to be different for everyone. There are going to be some grantees where it's almost probably copying and pasting from the request for proposal. You know, we have X amount of dual trainees and we're going to be paying for related instruction, fees, books, and materials, you know, straightforward, nothing else. There are going to be other grantees who have trainee support costs where this is going to need to be more built out. We're going to be designating X amount for, you know, gas cards. We're going to be designating X amount for lodging, and it needs to say how you are planning to allocate that among your dual trainees, what your plans are. So we do know that this document might not come before contract signing, but please know we do need to get it on file before you actually start having those dual trainees entering into the program, because these dual trainees also need to be notified by you about these policies and procedures. So before they're saying, yeah, I want to be a dual trainee, they should know what access they have to funds and what those funds can and cannot be utilized for. And then prior to executing the grant contract, we do need to have dual trainee participation agreements on file. And this process is all going to be done through the very same portal system. So I'll walk you through those steps. With the dual trainee participation agreement, like I said previously about the work plan and budget, it's that concept of initial, right? Like we have this plan we're going to be implementing. So you should have initial dual trainees that are going to be starting the program. If you have absolutely none and we're kind of getting to this timeline of like contract has to get signed or not, please do be reaching out to us so we can kind of discuss where you are in the process and what the best steps forward would be. But here in the month of June and July, you should be recruiting your dual trainees. They should be signing these agreements. You should be placing them into their work plan and budgets and being able to move forward with the contract signing. So the dual trainees themselves, they are actually you'll need to send them a link to the portal. You'll want to copy and paste it out of this presentation is probably easiest, or out of your own browser if that's easy as well. But you'll send your dual trainees the link to the portal system, they'll have to create a new account. So they're going to register as a new user. Once they register as a new user, the Office of Higher Ed is going to review that registration, and we are going to go ahead and assign them to you, the grantee/organization. So we're going to assign them to you, so then you can actually know that they've completed it and pull them up then in your work plan and budget documents. The dual trainee, once their registration has been approved and they go into that portal, they right away are going to have to go to their profile, and they're going to have to update some of the fields in their profile in order for the system to work properly. Once they've updated that profile, then they're going to go into actually doing their participation agreement. They'll be saving the participation agreement in the portal system. So for a limited time, they will have the ability to adjust it if something is done wrong, like they've selected the wrong training provider. You can let them know, hey, looks like you've selected the wrong training provider. Can you please go back into your agreement and adjust it? They can go ahead and do that. And then once that agreement is fully on file and the right training providers in that, you as the grantee will be able to go into your work plan and budget, see their name. It'll actually become visible then for you to select them. And then you'll be able to select the training provider that matches with their plan. And then we do have a note on here, and we'll go through this in the screens as I actually show you the portal. But just as a reminder, so if a dual training program is not eligible for financial aid, whether it is federal or state financial aid, you want to discuss that with your dual trainees ahead of time of having them go through these steps, because there are questions related to financial aid in that form. And you don't want them thinking they could potentially have financial aid if that's not even an option for their program. So please make sure you are well aware if your program is or is not eligible for financial aid.
Jacqueline, we have 2 questions in the queue.
Go for it. Yeah.
So one is they just want to confirm if they're using if they're using one school across 2 different programs or occupation, should they make sure to have 2 separate training agreements with that school?
So dual trainees should only be assigned one occupation. There shouldn't be instances in which they are in multiple occupations. And then they could be attending potentially multiple training providers, and they will be able to select multiple training providers. So if they are attending 2, they will be able to select 2 the training. There's not multiple agreements. There's one agreement for every trainee.
Perfect. And then the second question is, actually, no, we have 2 more in here. So will there be a written document for the budget, policies, and procedures detailing what is needed in the policy?
There is not. This is our first time doing it. We've realized we need something, but every grantee is really different in how they're setting up their programs. Some are it's general, some very, very, very detailed. So we are honestly giving that to you as the grantees for you to create at whatever level you feel is appropriate at this time in your dual training journey. If you're brand new, you're a small company, you don't have policies and procedures in general, it's going to look a lot different to if you've participated for several years and you're a very large organization and you're very used to creating policies and procedures. So we don't have a template and we don't have like a list of the must-haves. Get us something and we'll look through it. If we have questions or think there could be things added to it, we would definitely work with you in creating that. But we just want to make sure we have something in order to move forward.
And then the last question in here is, how would we know if our program is eligible for financial aid?
You should be having these conversations with your training provider. And that is why those training provider agreement steps are essential. So your contact with your training provider, they should know immediately, yes, this is financial aid eligible. No, this is not financial aid eligible. And most of the time, Grace and I actually will know as things are coming through. We've worked with a lot of these programs, so we'll likely kind of know as they're coming through. But once in a while, we'll see and we'll be like, is it or isn't it? Because might be for some training providers and it might not be for other training providers. And we'll ask you, and if it comes to that and we need confirmation, we'll actually ask you to make sure you get something in writing from your training provider stating it is not financial aid eligible. That only happens a handful of times across all grantees though, but your training provider should automatically know.
All right, and we have a follow-up question here just regarding the multiple programs. So the question prior, they just want to know, we have 3 different occupations in our dual training proposal. The dual trainees will be in one program, only rad tech, RT, or EMT to paramedic. St. Kate's, for example, has an RT and rad tech program. So should we have 2 training agreements with St. Kate's? Dual trainees are only enrolled in one program.
Got you. So we're on the training provider agreement side. You will do one agreement with your training provider and it will list out all the programs. So on the training provider side, it's one agreement and it will cover all your occupations, all your different programs that are at that training provider. So St. Kate's, one agreement is your only upload, and you'll see that in the portal. There's just one spot for you to upload one agreement for them. It's on the dual trainee side, your actual employee, they're also only going to complete one participation agreement, but they could potentially select multiple training providers because there are some programs that, transition into the other at certain times. So they could maybe be selecting 2 training providers on their one participation agreement. Good questions. Another new thing, my goodness, we only have 15 minutes. I'm going to have to speed up. Another new thing this year is we need to have a copy of your dual trainee service agreement only if you have one. It is not a requirement by any means. We don't provide any type of standardized formatting for these agreements, and we don't give, legal advice on these agreements. But if you have one, we just want to be in the know. It doesn't need to be the service agreement that an actual trainee of yours signed. We just want the template, the generic version that you'll be giving to your dual trainees. So we just stay in the know on it, and you'll actually email this to us. So similar to the policies and procedures document being emailed to us, you'll also email us a service agreement only if you have it. And then for the dual training program, this is talked about, in detail in that request for proposal when you apply, but we want to remind you that if your program is financial aid eligible, the financial aid steps are required. So your dual trainees must be completing either the 2024 through 25 FAFSA or Minnesota DREAM Act. These are required. We have the links here on the PowerPoint presentation. We do check these, and you really, really need to make sure your trainees are doing this before they become a trainee. Please do not have them go through an entire semester and never have completed this, and then we find out at the time of reimbursement. At the time of reimbursement, when you're requesting reimbursement, if we see that this step has not been done, we will not pay the dual training grant. We will wait till this step is done. And, employees, everything kind of fluctuates through a year. So just make sure they have it done right away, and then that requirement is met. We get a lot of questions about how the financial aid interacts with the dual training grant. And so we provided an example below. So for example, if we were in fall term and the tuition cost $2,500, the grantee themselves, you pay the full bill, right? You pay a whole 100% of $2,500, and the trainee themselves has a 0 balance. Well, you've already set up third-party billing, and they know that you're going to be paying prior to the financial aid. And therefore, this trainee themselves, they've received some financial aid from another source. They received $550, but their balance is already 0 because you as the grantee have paid it. Then that funding, if applicable, there's some funding that's not applicable, but if it is applicable, can potentially be refunded back to the trainee directly to themselves to use for other education expenses that they might have, because education costs more than just the tuition and fees. There's a lot of other things around there. And then, of course, you as the grantee come back to us and we go through the reimbursement process and either reimburse you 100% or 75%. We have some additional resources if your dual trainees are seeking more information. Our biggest thing is to make sure that they get in touch with their financial aid office. Anytime there's financial aid questions, get them in touch with the financial aid office. It would probably be really good to have one of your like secondary contacts be a financial aid person, so you can pass them right along to someone directly at the training provider. We have some more information on here with the Educational Opportunity Center. This is a wonderful resource dual trainees can utilize for more than just financial aid assistance, but helping them navigate a lot of different things that come along with post-secondary education. And then prior to executing the grant contract, all grantees must be set up in our statewide integrated financial tool system. We call it SWIFT. So SWIFT is the acronym that we go by with everything. If you've already been a grantee, you're likely already set up. But if you're already been a grantee, but kind of new to your role, make sure you have the logins or know who has the logins. Make sure all the accounts are appropriate. No banking information's changed. So SWIFT is really setting up how we can really pay you, where the money is going to go. And SWIFT is actually operated by the Minnesota Management and Budget, known as MMB. So if there's any issues with getting set up as a vendor, or if there is any pieces that you have questions about for updating your current SWIFT account, please reach out to MMB directly. I have their phone number and their email on here. And then with the contract, so it is not available yet in the portal. You'll see the screens, but we are still working on the actual templating of it. When we put the template into the portal, it is only a template for you to have the language. It is not meant at all for you to populate, fill out, and upload in any way. We will do all of that on our side. And so it's really important that in the portal system, you as the grantee are going into your organization profile. You're making sure your federal tax ID numbers are in that, all the address information's in there, because we're going to be pulling that to populate those contracts. And then we need to make sure there's somebody who can be an authorized signatory, whether they're already registered in the portal system or they need a new registration in the portal system. The person, we need to know who is going to be signing it. And then our office will actually create those contracts, send an email to our accounting contracts office. You will be included on that, and then they will get everything set up in that SWIFT system. And then it will push out in DocuSign a document for the authorized signatory to actually sign it electronically. And then the Office of Higher Ed will finalize all those signatures, process that contract, and we will get that contract, a copy of it, then uploaded into the portal system. So then you can see that your contract's in the portal system. The grant contract becomes effective when the contract agreement is fully executed, like signed by all of the parties. And so there might be some instances where the start date in the contract isn't really the effective date. The effective date may be a bit later due to when the signatures happen. We always try to avoid that. We always try to get everything signed before that start date, so then the start date and effective date are the same, but there might be instances in which it's not. All grant documents need to be completed by the end of July for us, or at least in those really solid initial stages, in order for us to get the contract out by August 26th and signed by everybody. August 26th is when Minnesota State colleges and universities start their programming, and the University of Minnesota starts on August 27th. It does require a minimum of 3 weeks for us to get the contracts processed. So at the point where you've got all your pieces together, we've drafted a contract, get it over to accounting, it can take up to 3 weeks to get all the signatures in place. All right, I am going to turn it over to Grace. She's just got a couple items here for you to consider with your training providers.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jacqueline. Let me go ahead and I will start sharing my screen. Okay. So first we're going to go into the training provider to-do list, and then we'll move into the reimbursement process and reporting. So as you're working with your training providers, it's extremely important to be collaborating with some different key areas within the training providers institutions. So admissions, financial aid, and the business office, as Jacqueline had mentioned. It's always a good place to start with the business office because they're handling your third-party billing and will help you immensely with collecting the necessary documentation. So the dual trainee needs to make sure that they've successfully enrolled in an accredited program, and the dual trainee also needs to submit the school schedule to the grantee. This needs to align with the work plan and budget. And then they also need to meet with academic advisors on their campus and understand the sequence of coursework and how long it's going to take them to complete their program. And then the program itself needs to be a degree, a certificate, or a credential that will be earned upon completion of that program. It's also imperative that you connect with your financial aid teams on those campuses as well, or I should say rather that the dual trainee connects with them, because there's going to be other funding opportunities as well. And completing the FAFSA is a requirement for this grant so that the student can get some additional funding to help support them while they're in school. All right, next we're going to go into the dual training grant reimbursement process. And so this is where we're going to go through the process of collecting a lot of documentation that you're going to submit to the Office of Higher Ed, and then we're going to be able to review it and provide you with the reimbursement for eligible charges. So this will be done through the portal. However, it is still in the process of fully being built. And it's really important to be sticking with these guidelines. So as we go through these slides, you'll see in the red writing some deadlines. So no later than 45 days after the end of term do we need to receive the reimbursement paperwork for the related instruction. And so with that being said, that's either going to be at the end of your term that the student completes, or if their courses are getting done before the end of the term, then they need to be submitted within those 45 days from the time that they end their courses. So allowable grant expenditures for the related instruction is going to be tuition and required fees. Required and recommended books, that's changed for this year. So now we also include the recommended books and materials. Moving on to a list of what is unacceptable are going to be things like test out fees, prior learning credit fees, federal and private educational loan fees, internship stipends, dual trainee wages, transportation mileage, lodging, meals, and on-the-job training, grantee administrative staff, and grantee on-the-job training staff. So these are expenditures that would not be covered in the dual training grant initially. However, there are also trainee support costs that may be eligible to be covered. So transportation, if they're needing to come on to campus to be able to obtain that required training, they may be able to get mileage cost, or lodging. Let's say that the program requires, if it's a nursing program, maybe requires them to be on site for their clinicals or labs, then they may be able to partner with the dormitories to be able to stay there for a limited period of time, and then the support funds could be used for that purpose. Jacqueline, do you have anything to add regarding the trainee support?
No, it'll just be really important for you to clarify and build this out in that policies and procedures document so we know exactly where things are getting allocated to. It's the first year of having trainee support costs. So if you have any questions or want us to kind of look into some circumstances you might think are a bit more unique, please reach out to us and we can read through those. And then the request for proposal does also have more information.
All right. I just want to make sure I was on the proper slides here. I think I was clicking on one of my screens and not the ones you guys can see. So, Jacqueline, are you seeing the training cost for large employers?
No.
No.
We're
Okay.
seeing still trainee support for allowable
Okay.
expenditures.
Sounds good. All right. So I'm going to.
Now we're
move
on
on here.
unacceptable for
There
trainee
we are.
support.
Thank you. So unacceptable grant expenditures for the training support are going to be things like airfare or housing. So like their rent or their mortgage. So not that what may be required housing for them to maybe come onto campus and be at a dormitory. Utility bills, vehicle repairs, internet services, phone charges. Again, we're looking at costs that are maybe the trainee needs to live. However, it's these costs that we're going to be able to provide with the trainee support are going to be costs related directly to their training that they're receiving. All right, so this is a very important piece. The training cost match for large employers. If the annual gross revenue exceeds 25 million in the previous calendar year, the grantee must pay for at least 25% of the training provider's charges for related instruction. That this can be paid in wages or in-kind contributions, and it cannot be considered, wages or in-kind contributions cannot be considered as part of the 25% contribution. Now, the maximum grant that the grantee is eligible, or the trainee is eligible for per year, is $6,000. So the max contribution at 25% is going to be $2,000. And this is because we have a cap for the instruction costs of $8,000. And so it's not the 25% of the training grant that's being awarded. It's going to be the max of the cost of instruction. And so below here is an example where we're taking a look at what the fall term cost match was, or I should say the full term cost, and then what the grantee match is. And you have a breakdown here for both fall term and spring term, and then the total year. So when you're submitting the documentation and the invoicing, we do want to see what the cost is for the full year, not just by each term. So this is a reimbursement process. So we don't generally pay on the front end. So we have the grantee pays the training provider, and then you would send an invoice to the Office of Higher Ed that shows proof that you have paid the training provider for the grant. And then once you have all the documents in, the Office of Higher Education reviews it. You would send that to Jacqueline and I, and then OHE reimburses the grantee. And now if you are in a situation where maybe you don't have that capital to be able to pay out the training provider initially, and you would need to maybe appeal to have us take a look at that to be able to pay you on the front end, then you can reach out to us with your special circumstance, and we can see if there would be a possibility that we could pay ahead of time. And then we can't emphasize enough, you want to make sure that you are getting in all of the supporting documents for the related instruction and training support, because the sooner or the more clean it is as these documents are coming through, the quicker we can get the reimbursement to you. Because there's times that we're going to need to come back to you with maybe needing some additional documents. So as the trainees are getting started and you're working with the business offices, make sure that you're collecting and you're documenting all of their costs from the start so that everything is clear when you're submitting it through the portal. And that side of the portal, we are still getting built. And so until it is completely finalized, just really make sure that you're keeping track of all of your documentation. So when the time comes that you're ready to submit it all, you have it all collected. And then we do request that grantees complete follow-up items within 15 days of receiving a request. And then we would be issuing the payment within 30 days of the completed and approved reimbursement request. So we understand that sometimes maybe this 15 days isn't possible. We just really want to emphasize that the sooner you can respond to us, the sooner we can get the reimbursement back to you. So just try to be as timely as you can with getting us the information so that we can move forward. All right, next we're going to move into dual training grant reports. And so we are required to do monitoring visits for grantees who are above 50,000. And he also reserves the right to select additional grantees for monitoring. Usually our monitoring visits we have scheduled halfway through the cycle. And so January through March has been our time for traveling. And you would receive the notice from us in December on when we plan to visit your facility. Annual reporting, the dual trainee level data related to grant progress. All of these are due September of 2025. You would receive notice in August of 2025. And then grant reimbursement and future DTG eligibility is contingent upon fulfillment of reporting requirements. So this transparency, Min, is something that we are using and state agencies utilize to ensure that applicants and grantees are in good standing. So we are able to identify statuses through that site as well. So just make sure that you have everything up to date. If you ever have questions on reporting or what you need to submit, please don't hesitate to reach out to Jacqueline or myself. And we are definitely here to help you be successful with this grant. Here are some additional resources. I'm not going to click into each one of them, but these are pieces that you'll be able to have within the slides that you're sent out today. And you can click through them as well. These are some financial aid grants that the Office of Higher Ed administers. And so your trainees, we really want them to be utilizing as much funding as they can, because we know that the dual training grant is wonderful, but it comes into pay tuition fees, and students have a lot of other costs that are outside of just your tuition fees. So that's why it's really important for them to complete the FAFSA, be able to get some additional grant money to help support them while they're in school to cover some of those other expenses. All right. And here are some workforce resources as well.
Grace, one second. So pipeline team, is there anything or big updates you want to mention on the workforce side? Anything with U Skills registered or through any of the other agencies?
There isn't anything new that is coming up. It's pretty much as it has been. So so that's always available, and we're always interested in talking to any employer who's interested in either one of the skills training or registered apprenticeship programs.
Fantastic. Yes, if you have any questions about those top two programs, reach out to one of the pipeline consultants. They'll get you in touch with the people that know all of the details. It's common for us to see useful training programs transition into dual training programs, or dual training programs to transition or be in conjunction with registered apprenticeship.
Okay, so your next steps after orientation, as we've been talking about, we've been getting the portal set up. So that's continuing to be a work in progress. And then next is going to be throughout the summer, DLI is going to set up some welcome meetings to get to know everyone. And then July and August, we'll begin to execute contracts. And the dual training will begin for trainees in August. And so Mid-State colleges, their start date for fall is August 26th, and U of M is August 27th for their begin date. And then DLI, did you have anything to add for, if you wouldn't mind going over this slide?
Sure. Yeah, so like Eric said before, our all industry forum is coming up tomorrow in person in St. Paul from 9 to 10:30. Everyone is welcome. We have ongoing Minnesota Dual Training Pipeline 101 introductory webinars. Those are every other month. The next one coming up is June 25th. These are all virtual and they're hour long. So like the Office of Higher Ed said, this presentation will be on, I believe, on their website. So you can always click on that link and or else go to our website to just register for the Pipeline 101. And then we are planning grantee introduction meetings, kind of just a welcome. We'd like to do them in person if possible this summer for all of the employers who have gotten the dual training grant. So we will be in touch with folks and we'll see if we can do it in person. If not, virtual is fine too. So we're looking forward to meeting everyone and just voicing our congratulations to everyone and helping out if you guys have any questions about anything that that has to do with dual training, because that's our job. That's what we're here for. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Okay, so on August 8th from 2 until 2:45, we're going to have a virtual dual trainee welcome session. So please encourage your trainees to come. Grantees are expected to encourage their trainees to attend the session. So we'll send more information out on that a little bit later on this summer as well. So I know we went a little bit over time here, and so we're gonna have a short break and then we'll reconvene to go through the portal.
Yeah, at 2:15, I know it's only 4 minutes, but if you have to run and take some water or whatnot, come back at 2:15 and we'll start going through the portal system. If you are thinking of some questions, go ahead, put them in the chat and we'll make sure that we get the responses into the chat here in the next couple minutes. But we'll see everybody back at 2:15. That was a very quick break. But we want to make sure we can keep moving forward and be able to show everybody the various portal screens. So let me get our web browser up here. All right. I am in a testing environment. At the very top of this browser screen, you see UAT letters in red. It means I am in a testing environment. It could be that some things might be just slightly different on the production side for a variety of reasons. So just keep in mind that I am in the testing environment, but in general, this is what should be happening as you proceed through the portal. It's this very same portal link that you used for the application. There's no new portal link, so just the same one. If you're using our presentation to get you there, you will want to copy and paste it. Clicking on it directly doesn't work. But if you copy and paste it into the browser, you won't have a problem. First of all, on the grantee side, during the application process, all grantees had an authorized official that was entered into the system and categorized as an authorized official. They're the ones who have the most, like the highest level of permissions in the system. And therefore, now that you've been awarded, there may be other authorized officials that need to be in the system. And so if that's the case, you will need to have them create a new user account for themselves. So say you're an organization, you're spread throughout Minnesota and you've got 3 different department heads that need to be authorized officials to have access to the system. All 3 can go ahead, create user accounts. We will code them as an authorized official and then they'll be able to have access. Just know authorized officials do have the most access so they can see all the different parts of the proposal and all the different parts of the work plan and budget. Your dual trainees, so these are your employees who you know are going to be coming into a dual training program, they also are going to need a user account, and they don't have access to much. They just have access to that participation agreement. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you the new user registration, and I am going to create that new user registration as if I am a dual trainee. So I'm one of your employees. I'm agreeing to go into this program, and so I'm going to complete a new user registration in here. I'm going to do a first name and last name. They can go ahead and put their, their title. should be able to skip over this FEIN, federal tax ID number information. That's more for the organizations. But with the organization piece on here now, this is where I'm going to know, okay, so Marcy actually goes with this entity. So you'll want to make sure that they actually put in the right organization that they are actually going to be assigned to. So that's you, the grantee. If you are an organization representing the various employers, you should put the actual grantee as the organization, because that's how I'm going to assign you. If you want, they could always put in parentheses afterwards their actual employer name, but we want to make sure we get them with the real grantee that they should be assigned to. The address steps are actually going to be their home address, because we want, this is their profile for them personally. So we want it to actually be theirs, not their organization's address. And they'll go ahead and put their email in there and their phone number. And this is the email that we would, if we needed to reach out to them for any reason, this is the email address that we're going to reach out to them at. This is the phone number that we would reach out to them at. So this should be theirs. This should not be like a generic email for the company. They're going to go ahead and they're going to create their own username and their own username password. And then in the notes, now if they forget, it's okay, but in the notes, we really do want them to try to let us know if they're a continuing dual trainee or if they're brand new. So continuing would mean is that they have received grant money from dual training grant in the past, at any point in the past. Could have been last year. It could have been like 4 years ago. At any point did they receive dual training grant funds? Or are they brand new? They've never been in a dual training grant, and then they can let us know that. So they would just type in, you know, continuing or new dual trainee. And then they'll click register. And it's done. It lets this message, you would have received this message as well when you were registering for the system, but it always says that it's going to take up to 3 business days. It can take us several business days. So myself and Grace have to approve each registration individually and look through it, assign it to an organization, determine if they are a continuing dual trainee. We have to go and look up all the funding that they've received so we know the exact dollar amounts to get that into the system. So it could take several days before we're actually able to approve their registration, but once we approve it, they do receive an email saying it's approved, so they can go back to the website and then log in. I want to make sure you understand that, because this isn't going to be, if you got all your trainees into a physical room and you said, okay, let's get you all registered right now and let's get this participation agreement done. You're going to get them all registered right now, but you're not going to get their participation agreement done because they can't just log in right away until we've reviewed everything and assigned them. So this would be a step that they should get done first. And then you could say, now let's all get together, let's meet, and then let's walk through participation agreement steps, if that's how you would like to handle it. So they will go ahead and log into the system. I'm logging in right now as myself, but I am going to go into a mode as if I am the dual trainee myself. So once the dual trainee logs in, so they've been approved, they've gotten an email saying, hey, you're approved, go back into the system. They will go to a dashboard. It looks just like your dashboard did as an applicant, and they'll actually click on the name. So they'll have this associated proposal with it already. So this proposal is already in a status of being awarded. It's been awarded, and they'll be able to click on the name of that proposal. And then over on the left-hand side, they are going to be able to see this dual trainee participation agreement. And that is what they're going to click on that left-hand menu bar. And some of this information is going to get pre-populated. So when we're assigning their record to you as an organization, that is the grantee. And so this will get pre-populated. It's also going to pull in their name as well. So it's going to pre-populate, and then they can go and confirm pieces. So this does not pre-populate. I had already been testing and starting new address information. So they'll type in their address in here. They'll let us know if it's their permanent mailing address or not by clicking that box. They'll let us know about their email address, phone number, and then you can see in here we have social and date of birth. So the form itself is collecting social, but this date of birth piece is pre-populating. And so I'm going to show you actually how to get that to pull through, because if it doesn't pull through, they're not going to be able to save it. They're going to let us know the year of their high school or GED graduation, and then also let us know about the highest level of education that has been attained up until this point. And then they can go ahead and select their training providers. So we could say this one's going to 2 different ones, or it could just be one. We'll just do a NOCA, but they could select multiple training providers. And then this is that FAFSA area. So they have to let us know if they've completed the FAFSA or not, but it could be that it's not applicable, right? So if they're in a program that's not applicable, they're just going to say no. And then why you didn't complete the FAFSA, you could say, you know, NA or not eligible for financial aid, any of those reasons. If they do select yes, we have them input a date and when they actually submitted that FAFSA application. And we are going to need the newest financial aid application, which is for 2024 through 2025. There's demographic information in here that they can go ahead and select. It is optional, so it's not gonna air out if they don't select anything. They could leave all of these areas blank or not answer them. It's up to them. And then they have a certification process that they go on. There is a notice to the dual trainees that they can select, and then acknowledging all the different certification points that they are going to be earning an industry recognized degree, certificate, or credential. They're accepting obligation. If anything should change on this form, they're going to let us know. They're giving permission for the Office of Higher Ed, the employer, and the training provider to discuss items just related to the dual training grant. They understand that if something happens with funding, that they are potentially need to be paying those costs with their training provider and be mindful of that. And they're certifying that everything is true and correct. And then they'll type in their name and click save in that top right. If something errors out on here, it will show up with an error message. It will show up in red and let them know. So let's talk about that date of birth and how we're actually going to do that. And this is I would actually have them do this first before they even start to do the form. I actually just skipped ahead. So when they log into the system, what they should do first is come up to the very top right. They should click on their name and then click on their profile. And then here's their profile, and this is where that date of birth gets entered. So it's got all their information in here. They can update it. And date of birth is right under here. Above date of birth, this past awarded amount, that is what our office is going to be inputting. So we might already have it in there and we might not. We might need the date of birth to really confirm that it's the right person, but we might be able to do first and last name and address, match it up with historical records and get a past amount in there. So for example, maybe they participated last year, they utilized $6,000 in a dual training grant. We'll have $6,000 in there for them. But we want to make sure they get their date of birth put in here and everything saved. So top right is that save feature. And they'll get that put in there for us. And then they can go back to their home and go back into their form and get that form completed and saved. There's no submitting of the form, like an official big submit button. Instead, it is just saving, and they will be for a short period of time able to come back into this to make edits or adjustments. And if like something is wrong on there, you only have certain elements. You're not going to see this form as a grantee. You'll just know it's complete by the way we pull it through. And so I'll show you what it's going to look like on your side. Are there any questions though on the dual trainee side?
Yes. Jacqueline, there's a few questions in the chat here. So one question is, if a trainee was in a grant from a previous or different employer in the past, what would they do?
So they were with employer A, they're now with employer B, and your employer B, regardless, everybody has to have a user account. On that continuing dual trainee note, they should put, continuing dual trainee and put some kind of note in there. I was previously at employer A, so then we can make sure to line it up. We should still be able to pull data based upon name and still line it up. But they'll have to let us know.
Okay. And then will we be putting together instructions or maybe a recorded video to help with guiding the trainee on how to fill this out?
So we are recording this. We will have this recording ready for you. I don't have anything put together at this point. My hope was to have the user registration piece and some of the other pieces put together. I will do my best to get that to you. It won't be this week. It would probably be next week. So for those grantees who want to get started on it right away, you already know who your dual trainees are. You're welcome to start having them go through the process with you. And we will do our best to try to get something put together with their steps.
Okay. Should the grantee complete the FAFSA first before they complete the portal?
Dual trainees can do either or, it doesn't matter. Dual trainees who already kind of knew they were going into program probably already have the FAFSA on file. It's been available for a while now. But you can do either or, it doesn't matter.
Okay. And then would it be easier and fewer errors chasing in the grantee if the grantee could set up registrations for all trainees, then the trainees could go in and finish the profile and participation agreement?
No, so participation agreements are really important, especially in higher education. It is them authorizing themselves to even be part of this program. It is authorizing that we're allowed to talk to you, or you're allowed to talk to us about these various different elements. And this participation agreement does not substitute anything that your training provider might also have them filling out. It's very common, especially with post-secondary institutions, for them to have other types of agreements that need to be on file for them to share, like a schedule with you or a final transcript with grades with you. So you will have to talk with your training provider about anything additional. This is just for the grant, and they are the ones who are agreeing to be part of the programming, so they have to do this participation agreement.
What if the trainee has already completed 1 year of a 2-year program? They are eligible for dual training grant as an employee, correct?
If they did 1 year already under the grant and you submitted an application that you have continuing dual trainees, then they could be on your roster again this year. They do need to do this agreement again. It does not pull forward or carry forward, just like the training agreements that you're signing with your training providers are a brand new contract. These participation agreements submitted by your trainees are attached to that contract only. So they will, even if they're in year 2 and they've done something similar in the past, they do need to do it again. And you will not be able to, it might be more clear once we get into those grantee screens, but you will not be able to do anything with them on a work plan and budget until that is on file. I'm going to move over to be the actual grantee. Were there other questions in there, or I can move forward with the grantee side and it might become a little bit more clear as well?
Yeah, there's a couple in here, but I
Go ahead.
believe I can answer them as well.
Yeah.
Do I need to set up the training provider first in the grantee portal before get the grantee started?
You can do it all at the same time. So there's not like a, you must do step 1. you can get all of this done at the same time. So when you log in, so I'm logged in right now as the grantee themselves. And so when I show you the menu, I think it'll help kind of bring all of it together. So I'm logged in as the grantee. I am one of you logged in. And under my tasks, I see my proposal's been awarded and I see my proposal name, and I'm gonna click on that proposal name. And on the top left, because I'm an authorized official, I have access to the most data I potentially can have access to. I'm going to see all that proposal information. Shouldn't be anything new. It's all the stuff you've submitted. I can still see our review process, right? So I've got all the criteria notes from the review committee. I know what our scoring information was. I have access to our actual award notice itself. So I can see that letter. I can print that letter if I need to print that letter. And then moving into these next sections. So again, grant, contract, and the monitoring sections on here, please don't do anything in them. We are still in production or still in testing on that, and they're not final. But on the work plan and budget side, here's where, let's start with that training agreement. So this is your training provider agreement. And earlier when we were talking, someone had said they logged in and they went ahead and they clicked here and it errors out. And that is what we were seeing happen this morning. So let's see if it works. Oh, it works now. Yay. So this is the actual training agreement. It should look very familiar to you if you've participated in the past. So you can go ahead and save this in an electronic version. You can print it out, whatever works best for you. It is set up to be a fillable PDF for you. So you and your training provider are going to complete this together. One form for each training provider, and everybody needs a new one. So we would go ahead and enter our industry in here, our occupation, and our actual like degree certificate or credential, whichever level it is at. You're going to put in your information as the grantee yourselves, and then the related instruction training provider is going to put their information in here as well. The training providers should quickly know which category they fall under. We at OHE were assigning this to training providers ahead of time, so you may not know it right off the top of your head, but when you're talking with your training provider, they should easily say, yes, we're part of Minnesota State Colleges. Yes, we're part of the University of Minnesota. Yes, we're registered, post-secondary institution. They should know which box that they go under to be checked off on. And then we have general certifications here. We want to make sure that both parties understand the materials that have to do with the dual training grant, that you've discussed the type, format, scheduling, everything to do with the related instruction. What is that going to look like for your trainees? We want to make sure you've talked about any policies and procedures related to billing. Billing is super important to have those conversations and how it needs to be set up. We want to make sure that you've discussed any of those additional kind of like FERPA requirements, those extra forms that might need to get filled out by the trainees in order to share information. And that everyone understands that this is subject to availability of funds and that the information is true and correct. And then you can place an electronic signature on here. You could do ink signatures, whatever works for you to get the signatures. We need one from the grantee side and then one from the training provider side. And then what you'll do is this pre-populates. So on your proposal, this example was awarded for partnering with Anoka Ramsey, Bemidji State, and Dunwoody. So they have 3 training providers they're allowed to partner with. That's all going to pre-populate for you. And then you actually just go ahead and attach your document here. And then you could put a note if you need a note, and then you'll click save in your top right, and we'll make sure we have those agreements in there for you. So you want one for each of them. And that's the training agreement side. Any questions with the training provider agreement? Awesome. And then move into that work plan and budget. So on the work plan and budget, this is designed for each trainee. So you're going to add a trainee each time. I was hoping a second one would appear, but it doesn't look like it did, but that's okay. So with the dual trainees, they will only appear in this drop down. They only appear in this drop down if they've completed that dual trainee participation agreement. So if they registered their account, went into the screens, did their participation agreement, they will show up on this drop down for you. So you'll be able to select their name, and that's how you know that it's actually been done. So here Ada's actually completed it because I can select Ada's name. You're going to like reconfirm with us they are a continuing dual trainee to your knowledge, or they are a new dual trainee. So you will go ahead and let us know which one it is. And then you're going to let us know about that FAFSA. This is something that our office will be double checking and confirming and making sure it is accurate. But if you know that they have went ahead and completed that FAFSA agreement because they've told you, they've forwarded you the confirmation email, you know it is there, you can let us know. Or if you automatically know, not a financial aid eligible program, that's easy. It's NA, it's not applicable, we don't need to worry about it. Then you're going to set up your budget for that trainee. So for Ada, we have a related instruction budget of $6,000, and then we're going to have trainee support budget of $600. The things to remember about the budget is the system doesn't have checks and balances to make sure that all the dual trainee accounts that you put, all the work plans that you put in for all of your trainees, that it doesn't exceed your award amount. So you need to make sure you're not exceeding your award amount. If you're awarded $150,000, all the related instruction pieces need to be within that. With your trainee support budget, when you were applying, you could only apply for up to 10% of your overall amount. That does not apply when it comes down to, now we're on the trainee individual level. So Ada might only need 600, which is 10%, right? But maybe Ada has a lot more travel that needs to happen, or there's really specific lodging for, Ada's situation, and it's within the means of your budget that you have been approved for. That part you can increase. The related instruction is where we have those maximums of you can't exceed $6,000 in the year. And then your overall budget at the bottom, it's going to pre-calculate for you. It's also going to let you know these lifetime amounts to the right, because dual trainees can only receive up to $24,000 in a lifetime. So it's going to let you know if they're kind of nearing that $24,000 maximum. Then we're going to enter their employment information. So job title at the start of their program. So we'll say a certified nursing assistant. And then at the end of their program, they're going to be a registered nurse. The date of hire that they were hired, we'll say that they were hired in January. And they are part-time. We need to know their permanent work location, because we do know that grantees have a variety of work locations. So they'll let us know which work location, and they're going to let us know the address of that work location. All the work locations need to be in Minnesota. The permanent work locations cannot be outside of Minnesota. And then we move into their related instruction pieces here. So we're going to select ANOCA. Now, we know that Ada selected ANOCA on the participation agreement, which is great. But if we select Bemidji, let's go ahead and save and select Bemidji. It is going to pop up with this attention on the top right, and it's going to say that you've selected a training provider that's not selected on the assorted training participation agreement page. Please review. You cannot use training providers without a signed agreement. So this is how I would know, oh, I'm trying to put Ada at Bemidji because Ada goes to Bemidji, and it's not accurate. It's not letting me. So therefore, I'm going to have to reach out to Ada and say, you need to log back in, and you need to unselect ANOCA, and you need to select Bemidji on here, because that's really where you are going to be. We'll just go back to ANOCA and save. And then we're selecting our healthcare, and then now this is an error that you can see on the screen, but we've done new update pushes as of this morning, so this should not be the case on your side. You should be able to just see all of the different occupations. And it shouldn't be like repeatable as you're seeing on the screen right now. You should just see the ones that you were approved for in your proposal, and you can select which one. And then you're going to type in the title and degree certificate credential level. Please do make sure you don't just type in associates or bachelor's. Please write out the whole entire title and that degree level of the program that they are going to be attending. And then you'll let us know when their completion date is anticipated. And of course, this is a workable document, so if completion date needs to move out further, you can go in here and move it out further, but whatever you're anticipating that completion date to be. And then for related instruction period, how we've got this set up, and this is where, when I was talking earlier, it is a different feel from previous years. Let's say we're setting everything up for fall. So we're going to just look at fall term, and you have multiple different, we did fall, spring, summer, and customized. So customized, it could be a variety of different lengths or times and things. But if we're in kind of like a fall term, we'll do our begin date here. We're going to do an end date. We're going to say that ADA is attempting 12 credits. Later, we can say how many credits were actually completed. And then we're going to upload a schedule. We want to be able to see the coursework that's getting done in that time period and be able to see that it's within those dates. And so you can go ahead and upload that schedule directly here into the work plan. You can let us know also if it is a non-credit program. You can select this box and we'll know that it's not for credit and you don't need to populate those areas. And then competencies. So in the past, you had every single course listed, and then for every single course, you wrote down the specific competencies or skills. And all these competencies or skills are located in those pipeline program pyramids on the Department of Labor and Industries website. You should be familiar with them since they were part of your application. Here, what we're doing is we're having you upload their whole schedule. So for all of fall, here's the 4 courses that they're going to be attending. And then for those 4 courses, you are just going to type in all the different skills that you want to make sure that these individuals are gaining through those things. So, you know, patient care, medication, terminology, all of those different types of skills you want them to be learning throughout that term. You're going to just type them in. And then when we come to, so you would just need to get what you know is going to be happening now, which is likely a fall term or a customized term that's coming up. And then when it comes to spring, say we're in December and you know what spring is, you're going to hit on the right side and you'll actually add a section. And so it'll add a related instruction section. So you can go ahead then and select spring term and get that term put into the system. And then it does, then after we get all of our related instruction in there, then we're going to move on to on-the-job training. For on-the-job training, you're going to have fall term because we want to always make sure if we're doing related instruction in fall, we also have OJT for fall. We're doing related instruction for spring. We also have spring on-the-job training. There could be an instance where your on-the-job training program is for an entire grant period, and that is how you have it structured, and that's what works well for you. So that's okay as well if it is the entire grant period, or again, a customized term. Go ahead and select which one works best. Put in those dates again. And then here's where we want to know the on-the-job training hours. So we've got the credits for the related instruction side, now about hours. So during fall term, how many hours are they going to attempt? And then how many hours, you know, at the very end, you can go ahead and update this and see how much they actually completed. And then you will upload their on-the-job training plan. So each of your dual trainees should have an on-the-job training plan. And this is where we could foresee the pipeline tools, the spreadsheets that the pipeline team has already built that you may have used in your application process. It has on-the-job training with all the skills listed, different time frames. You can track completion in it, and you might want to just upload that directly. Or you might be an organization, you have your very own on-the-job training plan structure. It's in your own type of Excel or Word document or PDF or your own internal system that you're going to actually maybe need to screenshot for us instead. Whatever on-job training plan looks like, that is where you're going to upload it in here. But we do want you to still talk about and unpack some of those skills, though, that they're going to be learning then through on-the-job training. Again, pulling those skills directly from that pipeline pyramid, but then you could definitely add to it if you're an organization that has really specific on-the-job training pieces that are needed. And then as a reminder, on-the-job training is completely separated from related instruction. On-the-job training is not teaching experiences, practicum, labs, clinicals, anything your related instruction training provider is telling the trainees that they must do in order to graduate, to earn their degree or certificate or credential. That is related instruction. OJT is really what you as a grantee are doing completely separate in order to help enhance their learning experience. And everything will be saved in here. It is not a situation where you are submitting. And when you enter, so we entered everything in here for Ada. Now we want to grab our second trainee, and I don't have one to pull in here, but top right, you click this add button, and it will create a new document where you could grab a new trainee in there and save. If you remember from the proposal process, I'm going to scroll up here on the left menu side on the proposal. When I click on training provider selection, do you see how it pops down with all the 3 training providers? Because I kept adding them, right? I put Anoka's information and then I added, and I put Bemidji State and I added. And the exact same process is going to happen with your work plan and budget. You are going to input one dual trainee, save the next, and it will keep creating the multiple areas. So you can just click on work plan, see all your trainees there in the list, go click on that specific trainee, enter their data specifically. Those are the 2 main steps in here that you need to worry about. And then, of course, you have your trainee who needs to do their step as well. And then these pieces, we will reach out to you with an email and let you know when they are ready on the contract side. To give you an idea, it looks like this right now, and you'll notice in the top right, there's nowhere for you to save anything. So this is really a page that our office is going to be inputting the data, but you'll have access to it. We will be putting your SWIFT vendor number in there. We will let you know which version of the contract this is, if it's an original contract or maybe it's an amendment. We're going to let you know about all these start dates. So contracts have a start date and an expiration date, but the signatures are really important because you could have a start date. Let's say you wanted to start on the 26th. Your expiration is the 30th of June. And then your contract signature date, though, isn't till 8/28, we'll say. Your effective date is no longer the 26th of August. It is now the 28th. Therefore, if your coursework started on the 26th, we cannot pay for it. We won't be able to pay for coursework until it's in the future. So it probably would be like spring term. So you want that contract effective date, that very last date is really important about making sure that is when actually costs can get incurred and bills can happen. If we see anything on an original receipt that is prior to that effective date, we will not be able to approve it. And we will have a sample contract language on this page soon, probably within the next week. And you'll be able to take that language and give it over to any legal teams or other entities that need to review that language and let us know if they're in agreement with it or if any updates are needed. If updates are needed on contract language, we do have to also go through our legal counsel. And so we want you to do that as soon as possible. So once we have that sample on here, we will let everybody know about that and you can start looking over that language. But as of right now, you don't need to do anything in this grant contract or the monitoring steps, just the work plan and budget. Grace, we have questions in the chat.
We do have some questions in the chat. I've answered a few.
Awesome.
But let's just take a quick peek here. Is there any way to import this information versus hand entering it? I'm worried the additional time this will be adding for data entry for organizations with a large number of trainees.
So there's not like a report or exporting from here into Excel at this point in time. You can print, these screens are printable on the top right, so you could print it if you needed to keep like these screens for your records. But this is all set up to be individualized for each of your trainees. So each of your trainees have to do the agreement. Each trainee is going to have a work plan and budget. And once the invoicing piece is set up, this all connects. So we can be able to see, okay, so Ada's schedule in fall was this, and then on the invoice side, they're requesting this amount. Does all of that match? So we'll be able to connect those pieces once that invoicing step happens.
And then for the related instruction, is it possible to move those questions to the trainees side so that they can upload their schedule and credits?
It is not at this time. We do not have that ability for them to be uploading at this time.
What if we don't want individual trainee support budgets because there will be variability? Can we just set those up as people access the funds? There won't be enough funds to cover all trainees.
So you don't want to set Ada up at the full 6,000 because you're not really exactly sure what it's really going to cost for Ada. But you know, like fall semester is going to, for sure, fall semester is going to cost $1,500. And you're not anticipating any trainee supports for fall semester. And then spring semester comes and you're like, oh, yep, Ada's back. Okay, yep. And now I have the new schedule and all the plans for spring. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to increase, Ada's budget to the 3,600. Yes, you can go ahead and do that because this is a livable document. It comes down to once we start that invoicing process and start locking things kind of in, you're not going to be able to like drop below, of course, because if we've already paid the 1,500 for fall, it needs to at least stay at that. But you can manipulate this budget. You don't have to start it always at the 6,000. I think that's answering the question.
Mm-hmm. And multiple staff have the same access to the portal with different areas involved in tracking for the work plan. It would avoid duplicate work.
So when they come into this system, if they are an authorized official, if you as the organization are saying, person A, person B, person C, all need to be authorized officials, have the most access, they will all see all of these screens. They will see everybody. If there's somebody who's just like an authorized signatory, all they're really doing is that signature process that's actually done outside the system, but you want to have them recorded in the system, they're not going to have access to any of it. So if they're an authorized official and they need to have access to it all in live, and it is in live time. So if person A on your team makes an update to Ada's budget, brings it to, $2,000, person B is in live time, going to be able to see it immediately.
And then does the training provider need access to the portal as well? Or how are they completing their portion of the agreement?
Mm-hmm. At this time, the training providers do not have access to the portal. That training agreement is a document that the grantee will download and save and share with their training provider when they're having those meetings and having those conversations, and the grantee will upload the final version.
Does the trainee need to complete their account setup prior to us completing the work plan and budget?
Yeah, so you won't actually be able, if your trainee has not done their steps, they won't appear in this dropdown. You will not see them. So that's how you know that they haven't completed their step.
Does the training provider need to be set up first in the grantee portal before we get the trainees started? That would be a no, correct?
The training providers themselves don't have a login, but the training providers from the proposal pull forward. So your individual has to fill out their agreement so you can select their name. Once you can select their name, you are only gonna be able to select the training providers that they wanted. You'll see your whole list. So all 3 of these were in the application. All 3 were approved, but Ada only wants to go to Anoka Ramsey and only indicated Anoka Ramsey. So if I select Anoka Ramsey, nothing will air out. But if I go and select the wrong one, it is going to air out and let me know Ada didn't select Dunwoody. So you need to talk with Ada on what she selected.
Mhm. All right, and we have a question to clarify. For the contract, the authorized signatory doesn't need to set up a profile. We can just upload the signed contract. Is that correct?
You will not upload any signed contracts. That I want to make sure that's really clear. You are not uploading any signed contracts. So the authorized signatory, you can either have them create a user account and be putting on there that they're the authorized signatory. So I sign them to your organization appropriately, and then I have all their data, and I will input them into a contract. Or you can go ahead and email me and let me know, hey, I'm the authorized official. I'm also signing. Then I know that, and I can put both roles under you. So then again, I know how to set up the contract. If your authorized signatory does not want to have a user account for a variety of reasons, then you just need to let me know all of their information so then I can manually put them into the contract. I draft all the contract language. I send an email to the accounting office. I'll put authorized officials on that email so they know it's moving to the next step. But the authorized signatory individuals will receive email via DocuSign. Completely separate system. They'll receive an email in DocuSign. It'll walk them through electronic signature steps. That's how they apply an electronic signature. And there's no login necessary with DocuSign, no account registration. And then the accounting office will let us know, and then I will go ahead and upload it into this portal system. So then everybody has access to the most recent version of the contract.
Okay, we're getting a couple more questions in. One that I had missed up a little bit toward the top was if they were not a grant recipient last year, but now they are, and so it's the second year of a program. How does that work?
So the employee themselves went to school for 1 year on their own. Now they're in their second year, but it's their very, very first time ever being a dual trainee, receiving dual training grant funds. They are considered a new dual trainee.
Mhm. And then, does the trainee need to update their account each semester?
The dual trainee themselves.
Yes.
The dual trainee themselves doesn't, because all they're doing is a participation agreement, and they'll just do it the one time and that's it. And we actually have plans that will probably shut off their access at some point, so they can't go in and change something that'll cause an issue on your side as the grantee in your work plan. So no, just one time during the year, they have to get it done for the contract. That's it, just one time.
If they don't complete their FAFSA right away, so instead they go on to do, the trainee goes on to do the participation agreement, can the trainee go back in afterwards and then indicate that, yes, now they've completed the FAFSA?
Yes, they can absolutely do that. Yep.
And then we have touched on this, but we just want to make sure, will this recording be sent out to everybody, or is it just going to be uploaded?
So it's going to get sent to what we have on our list for our primary contacts. So at all 84 grantees, one person will for sure be receiving an email stating here's a link to the recording and here's a link to the presentation. And then we will also be putting it on the website for anybody to access. So once that contact gets the email, they can forward it on to anybody, and then anybody in the general public will have access to it on our web pages.
All right, I think that covers our questions.
Awesome. All right, stop sharing. Okay, so I know it's a lot of information, a lot of changes. Please feel free to kind of keep a running list throughout this grant period, throughout this year, about things that work well or things that didn't work so well as far as our portal system goes. Just always please do keep in mind, there are limitations to all systems, right? And so we're doing our very best to try to build it in a way that can support you as a grantee and support your dual trainees within the kind of parameters that we're able to build it. So keep a list. We're always happy to have that feedback, answer any questions that you have along the way. And yeah, should be good. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stop the recording. I'll stay on just for a couple extra minutes in case there's any additional questions, but otherwise, thank you so much for staying with us.